Hiya, Georgie. Come on in. I got this new podcast for you. It floats. It's called the Float Easy. We all float down here.
We calling it the Float Easy now?
No.
Wait, how many of us float?
We all float. Johnny. Welcome back to the Freek Easy. Guys,
Oh, man.
I'm your host, Jaron, Scarin' Jaron, and I'm back with my number one guest host, Pixel Dan,
Yo, yo, yo. What's up, everybody?
and number two guest host, John.
Yeah.
Guys, welcome back to the Freek Easy.
Yeah, man.
I'm so geeked.
I thought we got canceled after that whole leprechaun debacle.
The Leprechaun.
Oh, that's our highest rated episode.
That's what I was going to say. Leprechaun didn't cancel us.
Yeah.
We need more of those. What do you think the green light is that's back here? He's totally here.
Oh, man. Guys, it's Freek Easy.
Yeah.
Spin-off podcast of the Geek Easy. Mm-hmm. We are so glad to be back. It's been a long time since we recorded anything.
Yeah. Was the Geek Easy canceled?
The Geek Easy happened. Well, I mean, all of media was canceled, so I think we just went with it.
Oh,
we?
okay.
We didn't have anything to talk about. Remember all those times we hung out and we just sat there and stared at each other? Because that's what the podcast would have been. So.
Yeah, pretty much, I guess. So
Now it's October,
Yep.
and it's Halloween season.
And it is time for some scary movies.
Yeah.
And guys, we're kicking it off with a classic. Mm-hmm. It. The
Which version?
franchise. The It franchise. Both of them.
Franchise.
Both.
Yep.
Four of them? Both quad of them? Four?
Three.
Three?
I mean, three. It's three.
I mean,
Yeah, because the original was like a mini series.
Yeah,
so
it's like two
technically one,
episodes, but I would call it one
Yeah.
still. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should just do a full-on watch-along right here and right now.
the whole
Oh,
thing.
yep, all
We already
three
watched
of
it.
them.
We're gonna do it
Yeah.
again.
Yep, right
Okay,
here with
hit
the
play
audience.
now.
So this might almost clock in longer than some of our other movie reviews.
Man, I was shocked, and we'll get to this more. But why was that second movie so long?
So long. So long.
I couldn't believe it.
And
It was-
it's good.
The second
Yeah.
movie is longer than the original two-parter.
Yeah, it's not not worth being that long, but it is good. But man, and I got them mixed up the runtimes on them because I was so I really wanted to watch the first one again because I love the first one, but there's that hesitancy. It's like I'm going to enjoy this process, but man, this is going to take forever. And then I turned it on and I checked the runtime real quick, and it was only like 210 or whatever. And I'm like, oh wait, this is the regular sized one. Awesome.
Yeah. It was crazy. But we're gonna start with the original miniseries, right?
We're gonna start. So if you remember, Freek
right.
Easy has a format.
we have a format.
We have a format because I'm a professional.
I was going to say, in the spirit of it, we should just talk about them in random chunks.
Oh, that's
Back and
totally what
forth.
we should do.
Yeah.
So of course, It, the very famous Stephen King novel. Either of you guys read that?
I have never read it. No.
I have.
Yeah,
Yep, it's been many moons. Oh yeah,
Been a long
for
time.
sure. I did it as in 8th grade, I think. They gave us one of those. You can do a book report on any book you want, and you've got a week to do it. And I went, all right, just as a challenge, I'm going to find the longest book I can find. I was into Stephen King stuff at the time, so it won that prize. And so I just stayed up in my basement all night for a week by myself reading that super scary book and got it all done and got my report done and then didn't sleep right for about 2 weeks. So.
So I skimmed through it at one point. When I tried to read it, it was probably a little above my head at the time, and man, it's 1,000. It's 1,100 plus pages.
Yeah,
that's a little deep water for me now. I had every intention of reading it before we did this, but we started talking about doing that like 4 weeks ago, and I can't read 1,100 pages in 4 weeks. Like,
well, you checked the runtime on the audiobook, and it was over 45 hours, wasn't it?
48 hours.
Yeah.
It's 48
That
hours.
is
Yeah.
bonkers. What?
Yeah, it's a full-time job if I wanted to listen to it in a week.
Oh my god.
With overtime,
Some
yeah.
overtime.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be covering the book. We should mention that it was a book. What we are going to be covering is the miniseries that played. Oh, I should have had it pulled up. Was it 1990?
It's right around there.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm pretty sure it was 1990.
Yeah.
Played on CBS.
I believe it was CBS.
One Sunday, and then you had to tune back in the next Sunday to see it. So it was like a full week apart.
Was it a full week?
It was a full week apart.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. Usually they do those much closer together. A lot of times it's like 2 night events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually this was like separated by a week.
Yeah.
So different kind of thing there. And then we had, when was the 2017?
Yeah, 2017 and 2019.
2019. They were 2 years apart?
Yeah.
Wow. So.
Well, you remember they hadn't even, when they did the first one, they weren't even positive the second one was going to happen. They hadn't casted it or anything.
Yeah.
Because they had to make sure the first one was going to. That's why they split it up as much as they did, because in the book and to some degree the original miniseries, there's a lot more back and forth between the children's story and the adult story.
Yes.
Right.
And in the movies, it was more of, here's the kids part, and then all right, that made it. Yeah, in the new movies, it's like here's the kids part, and that made a ton of money. So here's the adults part with a little bit of flashback.
Yeah.
But they didn't go to the adults at all in part one because they said they didn't even have them cast or anything. So.
Right. Right.
Also because Stranger Things was a thing.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So my memories of the original It, I totally remember that being like I remember it along the same lines as like Goonies and the Monster Squad. Like I remember watching that well before I was allowed to watch scary movies. And I just remembered it as the kids stuff and the kids fighting the clown, and I was never scared of the clown. But then man, when I was like 20 and I was like, man, I haven't seen It in a really long time. I'm gonna go rent It. Why is it 2 VHS tapes long?
You're dating yourself.
Well,
What are VHS?
I'm fine with that.
See,
That's
internet
my experience.
VHS were these giant bricks that we used to watch movies on.
You guys have any memories of the original It?
Well, when I remember when it first came out, I wasn't supposed to watch it. My oldest sister lived on her own, and she was super scared of clowns. But I knew I think I was over at her apartment or something, and it was when it was originally airing, and so it was on. So I kept trying to sneak peeks, but couldn't get much of it in, and then left and whatever. But I remember really wanting to see it, even though stuff like that scared the bejesus out of me back because I was 10 at that time, and I was not into scary stuff at all. But it had piqued my interest, but I never really got the chance to do so there. And then it was about 4 years later when I actually read the book, and I didn't see the miniseries for probably, I would guess, at least a couple of years after I read the book before I went back and actually watched the series for the first time. And I don't have any specific event or instant memories of it. I do just remember thinking that it was really solid for what they could do at the time. I'm like, I have no idea how they're going to put this book on film. And then I watched it. I went, that was fine.
Yeah.
That I don't know that they could have done much better, but also that was really lacking, in comparison. I did always enjoy some of the performances, particularly Tim Curry, of course. And I always think it's funny how iconic he has made, because even nowadays, a lot of times, even with the new movies being very new and big money makers and all that stuff, more often than not, I feel like when you see Pennywise depicted somewhere, it's still the Tim Curry version that you see.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's the clown, the original clown, Pennywise, is so iconic to this day. As a kid, I always knew what that was and what it was from, even though I never saw this as a kid. And I didn't see this at all until we watched it for this show. This was my first experience finally sitting down and watching both the original miniseries and the new movies. So I was brand new walking into this, with my only knowledge of it being what has been throughout pop culture all these years. Obviously, I knew it was popular. I knew exactly who Pennywise was. Even as a kid, I didn't watch the series, but I certainly remember kids on the playground talking about the series. To the point that I don't think I knew that the clown's name was Pennywise. I think he was the It Clown or It the Clown or whatever. That's what it was to me. But I knew about the battery acid scene.
This is battery acid slime.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I knew about that just because of kids on the playground probably talking about it or reenacting it or whatever, but I knew about that.
You ever get sprayed with an inhaler?
No, I never did.
Okay.
I never
Probably
did.
good.
But you know, until I saw the movie, it was one of those things that like clicked, and I was like, oh, I remember that about this, even though I've never seen this. You know, it was one of those things. So, yeah, I mean, that's the only real memories I have of it. I probably, honestly, would have been too scared to even watch something like this when I was a kid when it was out, because I've never really liked clowns anyway. Like, I've never been, like, scared of clowns, but I certainly wouldn't have gone out of my way to watch something like this because of the reputation it had already. You know what I mean?
That seems like such a weird... such a shift from like our generation, even from I feel like just the one before us. Like clowns were like a kid's thing. I mean, and Bozo was on for 75 years, and
we were having this conversation while we were watching this movie the other night because clowns are totally ruined now.
Yeah,
like that's just they're over, right? They are ruined. There's no like going back at this point. Clowns are just scary. But like when we were kids, you're right. I watched Bozo the Clown. Ronald McDonald was awesome. Yeah. I always wanted to hang out with Ronald, and I love those McDonald's commercials.
Well, and that I mean that shift directly coincides with this movie coming out. It seems like I mean this may be why like that character became so iconic. I think a lot of people. Now there was already a lot of fear of clowns going in. I know because I remember that being. Like I said, my sister was afraid of clowns going into that and stuff like that. But this was the thing that really catapulted the evil clown into the psyche of, you know, like when you think of the evil clown now, you think of Pennywise.
Or the Joker, right? I mean, the Joker is also like got to be the iconic.
But I don't like. There's not a
clown.
like, but nobody's really scared of the Joker. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like they don't sit in their basement and shiver thinking of the Joker coming through the door.
The Joker feels more like a symptom than like a cause. Yeah.
Because even like. Jack Nicholson's Joker wasn't a scary a scary clown. He was goofy and fun to watch.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how Joker usually was depicted in most mainstream media. You know, I know he's had his scary moments in the comics for a long time, but the other thing that I think adds to it in pop culture wise is The Simpsons. Do you guys remember Can't Sleep, Clown'll Eat Me, Can't Sleep, Clown'll Eat Me?
Oh, yeah.
The clown bed? Yep. I seriously feel like that's one of the things that, like, brought scary clowns to mainstream. Like, I don't know. Like, that was a thing in that show. And I've always remembered it.
They had Krusty, though.
I know.
I mean, we also...
He had that scary clown bed. Remember that?
Yes. I definitely remember Can't Sleep, Clown'll Eat Me. Oh, man. But we definitely had... I mean, we also have to mention the serial killer in the room, John Wayne Gacy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that definitely had to play into that shift some. Because I just feel like there are people who have not seen it that are scared of clowns.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure. But I mean, even people who haven't seen it know the imagery. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
So it's one of the. I don't think it was like a conscious thing. Like everybody watched this movie and then everybody got scared of clowns. I know there was some coming into it.
Yeah.
I just think that became this thing where like every time you see a clown now, it's a scary clown.
Right.
And part of that was because of stuff like we're talking about
totally
here.
right.
Yeah. So I think it's a conglomeration. Is that a word?
I mean, there was a time
of all these things.
Us all
an amalgam.
Coming from a wrestling background, there was a time where every wrestler on the independent scene was some sort of a scary clown, and I hated that was a thing. Like, why are there so many clown gimmicks? You know, there's a lot less of them these days. But there was a minute where it was
why are there so many juggalos in wrestling? I think that's the real question.
I was thinking about it as we've been sitting here talking too, and I was saying earlier, like I can't really remember why I was curious about this movie because I hated stuff like that so much. But honestly, I think it's because even as a 10-year-old, I did watch a ton of sitcoms.
Yeah.
And with the cast of this movie, you know, like I knew Annette O'Toole from Superman 3, but then we had John Ritter and Harry Anderson and all these like big sitcom stars were in this thing. Yeah. So I remember thinking like, I watch all these shows. Maybe this movie will be good. And later on, when I finally watched this movie, I was like, man, this is not like Night Court at all.
Definitely was not. All right, so should we do the plot rundown, right?
Yeah.
Because the original movie, it's all kind of cut together, but it basically breaks down into two storylines. We have the kids in the 1950s in the original, and in the well, we'll talk about the reboots in a minute. In the original, you got the kids in 1950 and the Losers Club, who are all the losers from school that are getting picked on and chased by bullies, and they also end up getting targeted by the demonic clown Pennywise, who then terrorizes them until they go down in the sewer and kill it with a slingshot.
Yes. The end.
And then they all grow up and move away and forget all about it, except for Mike, who stays in Derry waiting, because Pennywise is this demon that comes back every 30 years or
27.
27 years.
And the years for the miniseries, because honestly, the miniseries only came out a few years after the book did, I think, because the book was like mid-'80s, somewhere around then, and that's when it was set. And so 27 years prior was the late 50s, and the miniseries pretty much keeps that same timeline there. And then, as you were alluding to, the newer movies sort of updated for the times that they're being made.
Right.
But it's always one of those weird, when you look back time-wise, when that movie came out, I knew the book had existed, and when you're 10, you just assume everything has always been there forever. And so it seemed like this book was written, and then however long later, they made a miniseries movie out of it, which is how things kind of run. And you look back on it and be like, man, that thing was only out for, that book was only out for 5 years tops before that miniseries. That's like no time at all nowadays, when stuff goes. So it's just weird how much faster things seem in retrospect.
For sure. So then 27 years later, it comes back, and Mike has to call the Losers Club back to Derry, Maine. What a weird name for a town.
Yeah.
Derry.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not like milk.
Oh. Yeah. I knew it wasn't like milk. Gosh. I'm just saying, like it sounds weird, Derry, but then it also sounds even weirder when you say Derry, Maine. Like it just doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm still not convinced Maine actually exists. Like I know it's on a bunch of maps, but I still think Stephen King may have invented it.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever met anybody from Maine? I haven't.
I've not. So the Losers Club returns, and they all slowly start to remember, and Pennywise shows back up right away and starts to terrorize them again, because he knows he wants them, either wants them to leave or he wants to kill them, right? And they have to steel themselves as adults and go back down into the sewers, where instead of facing a scary clown, they fight a giant scorpion from space. And tear its heart out with their bare hands.
Yep, but they do not ride a cosmic turtle.
They do not ride a cosmic turtle.
What?
Yep. You should read the book.
That's what happens in the book.
The book is super trippy.
The book is like the movies all the way up until the end, and then it goes full on. In the book you find out that it is like this eternal cosmic being of darkness.
I think Stephen King had like a 600-page book in mind, and did that Stephen King thing where he got 600 pages in and went, I don't know how to finish this, so I'll just keep writing. And 500 pages later, he went, I just got to stop. Somebody give me an 8-ball, and I'm going to do all of it, and then whatever's on the page when I wake up tomorrow or next week is what I'm turning in.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I was so excited about the end of that miniseries when I finally watched it several years later, until I got halfway through that miniseries and I went, I don't even want to see what CBS thinks a cosmic turtle would look like. Right. And then I got to the end, I'm like, I am more underwhelmed than I thought I would be.
Yeah. So Pennywise's mortal cosmic enemy is the turtle that created the universe. And so the turtle shows up and battles him.
Yes, what?
Yep.
I'm really upset I didn't get this in the movie.
They still end up ripping the turtle battles him and weakens him enough that they're then able to rip, because they still rip its heart out with their bare hands.
I think so.
Yeah,
I don't remember specifically. Honestly, the end is a real haze of that. Like I remember bits of that book, and I can do some comparisons along the way from some things, but the end was just so bananas to begin with that I've got nothing but that vague memory of the cosmic turtle.
Yeah. And then that's the end of it.
Mm-hmm. And then 27 years after that, nothing happens, we assume.
So it was really crazy for me. I started talking about how I remembered it as like this Goonies, another Goonies. It was never, when we were doing horror movie sleepovers and stuff, when we were too young to be doing horror movie sleepovers, we never reached for it. It was always Nightmares or the Fridays. So I really, I didn't understand why it was a horror. Like, I know it was Stephen King, but like I didn't, understand why it was like considered this horror movie until I saw the whole thing. When, like I said, when I was in my 20s, I remember watching it and being like, oh, why is this 3 hours long? Why am I watching all this boring stuff with the adults? What is happening here? And it's really, just really not good. Like, I did not enjoy the original much.
Really?
Yeah.
I really don't. But I also I still think, and maybe there's a little bit of nostalgic, but I think the kids part is so much better than the adults part. Like, and mixing them up like that just creates this like long commercial. Every 10 minutes I have to watch 10 minutes of the adults being boring.
Yeah.
And there's all those terrible scenes like with Mike and Bill riding the bike when they're all old.
Silver away.
Yeah. and they
wasn't there just one of those terrible scenes, or have I blocked out the rest?
No, I mean there was only one of those. It's not like they rode the bike a bunch, but like the scene where they ride the bike, the scene where they're at the Chinese restaurant, and it's just like this happy montage, like throwing fries and making fun of each other, and can you believe we're all back together? And it's like, ugh, come on, man. Can we get to some more Tim Curry? What are we doing?
Well, I had a lot of fun watching it. We laughed at it a lot.
Yeah.
And, it was one of those things where, like, I wanted to watch this before I watched the new ones anyway, even if we weren't doing it for this. It's the reason why I had not seen the new It movies yet. Because even when it was out, I really wanted to go see it. And I never did, because I always kept doing that thing where I was like, I really feel like I should watch the original before, because I just want to know, and I just put it off forever. So this was the great chance to finally sit down and do all that. And I had a lot of fun watching it and finally seeing it.
Yeah.
And knowing what it was all about. And I certainly love Tim Curry in this movie.
He is so much better than that movie.
For real he is. But I mean, it was certainly one of those movies that, like, I mean, we were laughing the whole time we were watching. We were probably having conversations that didn't really fit in with the movie while we were watching it. Yeah. But we had a good time while we watched it. And that's really just where I am with it.
I have a fondness for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, when my nostalgia of it is different than yours, and between it being that thing that I had, always kind of wanted to watch, but it escaped me, and being a filmed version of this, epic book I had read, and again, it is not. I mean, production quality is early '90s made-for-TV movie production quality. The acting is mostly solid actors phoning in a lot of their performance. I've seen a lot worse, but I've seen a lot better. But it's one of those deals where when I saw it, I knew for sure at that time they couldn't have done too much more. If they had tried to make a Hollywood movie out of this thing at the time, I think it would have been a far bigger disaster. I think they would have tried to cram it into 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's about what they took here when they cut all the commercials out and everything. I think it was just over 3.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Right.
But I think they would have, shaved down a lot of it. I think they would have cut bigger parts out. I don't know that the special effects were good enough at the time to have, it would have looked like
they were just good enough to have been a little beyond cheesy.
Yeah, it would have looked like they were trying harder, but I think that would have led to failing harder. Like, at least with this, you could watch it and go, it's a made-for-TV movie. What are you going to get? If you went to the theater to see it, you'd have gotten pretty much the same thing and went, I paid $10 for that?
Yeah.
Well, I guess $4 for that or whatever it was at the time, So
I was going to say, John, did you take your whole family?
But like I said, I gave him points for effort, and there was enough stuff I liked in it that gave me visualizations of the book that I enjoyed. And again, Tim Curry was phenomenal in it.
He was so great. Every scene he was in was the best part of the whole movie. You got excited every time you got to see Pennywise, and there wasn't enough of that sort of thing in there at all.
Yeah.
I could definitely see what you mean with like the boring adult parts, because you wanted to see more of like the crazy, creepy clown guy. I mean, he stole the movie for sure every time he was on.
Is it also, and this is something I've been trying to figure out myself, maybe you guys will have some insight. Is there also a thing where I'm less willing to accept adults being scared than I am with kids being scared? Because you know what, when I see the kid and the clown pops out and the kids go, ah! and run away, I'm like, yeah, run, kid. When I see like a grown man and Pennywise pops out and is like, hiss me, fat boy, I'm like, I'd punch that clown as hard as I could. Why isn't he punching that clown as hard as he could?
Sure,
because he's John Ritter.
Yeah, but I guess the whole idea is supposed to be like the childhood trauma thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
like that's supposed to be that whole, you'd be a little paralyzed if it brings back these terrible memories of this thing haunting you as a kid, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And maybe you wouldn't be as tough as you think you would be, or you would like to be. I don't know.
Tim Curry's "Kiss Me, Fat Boy" was way better delivered than the whichever Skarsgård did it in the.
Yeah, I also just kind of like, and I really like. We'll talk about Pennywise in the new movie because I do like.
I think he did great.
Skarsgård's portrayal of the character.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Just that one line, which I was waiting for in the new one because it's like my brightest memory of the original one, because I laugh every time I see that, and then it happened in the new one. I was like, that was not as good as Curry's.
Not as good, yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I think I like Curry's "Hiya, Georgie" better than the current one or the modern one, because he's kind of.
I was creeped out more by the modern one. For sure.
Well, he had more of like he was going for more of like a clown kind of voice, I guess.
Well, and I felt like Tim Curry had
hiya, Georgie.
He sounded more like the washed up clown.
Yeah.
Like this guy's been smoking
Cigar
a while.
Smoking.
Yeah. This guy's been clowning for a long time.
I like it. Hiya, Georgie.
It did, it did add that. It kept him from being bozo. You know what I mean? Like that was probably one of the things, they were like, if we just make this funny clown, it's just going to be a funny clown movie. Well, can you imagine John Wayne Gacy giggling and laughing? Or can you imagine John Wayne Gacy sounding like he just stubbed out his cigar and is asking you back to his house? So they went for that, right?
Totally.
Like,
to be honest, I never envisioned either until just now, and here come the nightmares.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Thanks, Jaron.
Well, you're welcome.
So we were talking about too, like the iconic look for Pennywise definitely feels like it comes from this original one. But one of the things I was reading too, because I do my thing where I always read all this stuff after I watch these movies just to see. And you've been talking about the book a lot, but like the modern redesign of Pennywise is apparently based more off the way he was described in the book than the way he looked in the original series. Like, they gave him the bright colors and everything in the original series, but he was always described as wearing a silver outfit with the red pom-poms on it, which is the way the new movie looks. So the new movie look is actually supposed to be a little more accurate, I think, to the books than the one that we consider to be the more iconic Pennywise.
So, yes, I believe Tim Curry's Pennywise is actually modeled off of John Wayne Gacy. Pogo the Clown.
Oh, it totally is.
That's
Yikes.
Tim Curry was definitely modeled.
Definitely playing into that.
Yes, definitely modeled.
Okay.
Why did I look?
I did like. Why did you look? I did like that in the newer movies there were a couple references to the original Pennywise just in the background and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I pointed that one out to you in the first movie because there was like
the kid walks into
that room full of clowns and one of the clowns looks like the Tim Curry Pennywise, and I was like, oh, that's good. But they did it at least 2 or 3 more times in the second movie. So like I love that they do that sort of thing and it's just there and it's for us.
All right. favorite Tim Curry quote, and then we'll move on to the new ones.
I'm stealing "Kiss Me, Fat Boy."
I was gonna say. I already did the battery acid thing earlier.
That wasn't Tim Curry. That was the kid.
Yeah, I know.
And sprayed him.
This battery acid.
Well, you can just run with "Hiya, Georgie."
Hiya, Georgie.
I was gonna say. Hiya, Georgie's great.
That's a good one. That's classic. We all float down here.
One of my favorite moments is when he comes up, when he's in when the bathroom is going crazy on the kid, and he comes up through the grate, like he opens the grate and he comes up, because that's when he comes up, and he's just so, like, he's such a clown in that moment, because he comes up and he just, like posts up on one hand, and like it's creepy, but it's also like he like waves, and I'm just like that's my. So I guess that's not a quote. That's my favorite moment.
I'll allow it.
Man, that's one of the things that adds to the creep factor of the clown thing, though. Like, in both of these movies, but it happens several times in the other movies. Anytime he actually, like, is able to entice a child by being a clown, it's like, oh, no. Why does that make him extra scary? Because, like, anytime he's, like, talking to him and they're, like, laughing and getting into it, it's just like, oh, no, this is bad.
Well, that's what is so freaky about it.
Yeah.
When we shortly after we watched the first new one, I was driving along with my kids at one point who were, probably 7 and 5 at the time or whatever, and I was like, "Hey, you guys do know if you ever see a clown in a sewer, don't talk to it, right?" And they were just like, "Well, what if he tries to give us money?" I'm like, "Then definitely don't talk to him."
What if he tries to give us money?
And that ended up being like a half an hour conversation that I did not expect,
But money.
Yeah. What if he says he's our friend? He's not. He is not your friend. No one in the sewer is your friend.
Except the Ninja Turtles, John.
Well, yeah.
You may not have done a good
no,
job.
Yeah. I don't think.
Instilling stranger danger into your kids.
Yeah. I don't think this went the way it was supposed to go, but it did cue me in onto some conversations that needed to be had. So.
Oh boy. Yeah. So we can move on to those new ones.
Move on to the new ones, because and we can get a little more into these. I feel like, because they are so, like, I feel like there's a lot more to talk about. They're so much better. The first one I love so much. It Chapter 1. I love it so much. It's
real good.
It is so good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was really excited to watch this one.
Yeah.
Because I was real anxious to see how they were going to translate all that stuff to something a bit more modern, a bit scarier, because I knew that's what I would expect out of this movie. And that first opening scene, the way they introduced Pennywise and did the Georgie thing right off the bat.
Dude.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, it was so cool because it felt familiar at first. Mm-hmm. There were some differences with the relationship, I think, between Bill and
in the old one, Bill is just being a total jerk to Georgie,
which
is probably more realistic to a brother relationship. Yeah. But it felt better because in the second one, he's like being nice to him.
Yeah. But like, I think he even kind of explains later that like he didn't want to go outside and play with him in the rain, and that's why he built him that boat just to send him outside.
Well, he was pretending to be sick.
Right.
He blamed him. Blames himself obviously for what happens. But yeah, so like that whole scene is great because it feels familiar right off the bat. Like, you know exactly what's going to happen, and you're kind of excited for it. And then you get that famous scene with Pennywise in the storm drain. And that was really great. We already kind of talked about that. And then he just straight bites the kid's arm off.
Yes.
See, I don't think excited for it is the term
Well,
I would use, because every time I watch it, I'm like, Georgie, just go.
Oh yeah.
Around,
Okay.
Georgie.
So I didn't mean excited in that sense. I meant just in the fact that, okay, this is cool. I recognize what's happening. I'm really excited to see how this movie is going to deliver that product. And then it delivers it by getting that kid's arm bit off. He tries crawling away from the sewer, and then a giant mouth just sucks him in and eats him alive.
Yeah, dude. It's intense. It sets the stage.
Yeah.
For what, like if you were expecting a cheesy remake of the 80s, it let you know right away.
Yep. Yeah, because we never
movie.
We never saw the Tim Curry Pennywise actually like eat a kid, right?
No.
And we see this Pennywise eat lots of kids.
Yeah.
Like it happens pretty regularly with these movies.
And he's got those teeth.
He's got that
unfurl.
crazy mouth.
Like,
Totally.
Yeah.
Unfurls with all those teeth inside. Oh, it's nuts.
So good.
Yeah, it's real cool.
So good. I definitely, and we can talk about the Skarsgård portrayal. I think he's creepier than Tim Curry's.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think, as much as those movies will always be better, I don't know that he'll ever be.
Yeah,
he feels,
Tim Curry was a tour de force in the thing he was in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Skarsgård was very good in the thing he was in. Now, the thing he was in was way better.
Right.
But Tim Curry still outshined everything so much in the first. Now,
and that's...
You also couldn't take Tim Curry out of those and put him into this one, like it wouldn't work at all. So it's sort of... It seems like you should be comparing the exact same thing, but you really aren't. It is sort of a apples to oranges type thing, or at the very least, two different variety of apple.
For sure. And and a thing, the thing I was gonna say about it is I think to compare it to like Freddy Krueger. Freddy became bigger than his movies. Tim Curry was immediately bigger than his movies. I don't think the Skarsgård will ever be bigger than this movie, but people are always going to reach for this movie before they reach for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless they just go, hey, you got to see Tim Curry in this old, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you're right.
If they want to watch the scary movie, they'll be reaching for It Chapter 1.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. The losers. The kids are so much better. It's a very so in this one
better than Seth Green.
Better than Seth Green. Much. I particularly. I mean, this kid has the. So maybe we should do a rundown of the losers. Do you have the losers pulled up? Because there's this Stuttering Bill, who is like the leader. There's. Richie is the loudmouth.
Yeah.
And Richie was Seth Green in the original, and he is
Stranger Things kid.
Stranger Things kid
in this one. And you got to give him, as much as I love Seth Green, like this kid got to cuss.
Yeah.
And I laugh like I'm his age every time I hear him cuss. There's Mike, who is the black one.
Chosen Jacobs.
Who?
Chosen Jacobs is his name.
The actor?
The actor's name that plays Mike.
Okay. I was like, Chosen Jacobs?
Nope.
Who chose him?
Nope. That's his name. Chosen Jacobs.
Chosen Jacobs.
Yeah. Eddie is the asthmatic kid.
Eddie's the hypochondriac.
Yep. Stanley's the Jewish kid. Beverly's the girl one.
The girl one.
And what's the fat kid's name? Ben.
Ben, yes. They're a perfect crew, right? And they're so good. The kids in this one are so good. Yeah, the kids are
amazing in that movie, yeah.
And I'm blown away. The actress who plays Beverly steals the whole entire movie. I feel like.
Yeah, she was great.
She was amazing.
I thought she was fantastic. Yeah.
I thought she was very good, but I think they were all very good. I don't know that none of them for me particularly jump out as a cut above the rest.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were all very good. I'd say if maybe. I don't know, like I said this. I think Stranger Things kid and probably her and the kid playing Bill maybe outshine a little bit more, but at least among those three, I don't know if I'd put any above the rest. And even then, it's like 8.5 versus 8.
Yeah. Well, like with Beverly too, they really got into like her abuse.
Yeah,
the stuff with her dad and everything.
Yeah, you only say they really got into it because you haven't read the book.
Okay, so sure.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Ugh. Yeah, but that's to my recollection at least, because I feel like, and I don't remember a lot of the specifics, but I feel like they got really deep into a lot of that stuff, like way deeper than I wanted them to go, and then I felt like the movie was scratching the surface of a lot of that stuff.
Well, that's Stephen King's thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yikes.
Let's make you. I've heard him describe himself as a confrontational writer, and that that makes perfect sense. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. What do I want to talk about with this movie? They get into all the kids' abuse. You know, like so besides the Losers Club, we also have the bullies, right? And there's kind of a group of bullies, but there's the two main bullies. There's Hofstetter, who is the one that Pennywise eats, and
Henry
Bowers. Henry
right.
Bowers.
Yeah.
And he's the one that cuts that cuts Ben.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just always like, I had bullies when I was a kid. None of them ever held me down and cut me with a knife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I want, you know, I'm not
Different
saying,
times.
I'm gonna say, man, you know, I'm not saying that's not something that happens, but man, movie bullies.
I mean, for sure. But they also portrayed this guy as like he was a sociopath.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like because he had like some serious problems, right? And,
Yes.
Like
Well,
obviously that manifested in like what happens later in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, he kills his own dad and everything, as we find out. So like obviously he's more than just a bully. He's got real issues.
Yeah. Well, and that was going to be the other thing I was going to say is like they show us his abuse too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you almost start to feel sorry for him, and you don't want to.
No, you don't.
You
Yeah,
know, like-
yeah, totally.
And there's a scene. And maybe this is jumping ahead a little bit, because they do the scene where Pennywise makes him kill his dad,
Yeah.
who's horribly abusive to him,
Yeah.
and the scene where Beverly stands up and tries to murder her dad,
Yeah.
back to back,
Yeah.
and
yeah,
it's
totally.
so. It's a weird feeling because you're almost like, you know, oh no, he killed his the bully killed his horrible abusive dad. This is terrible. And then like you turn around and you're like, oh no, Beverly is trying to kill her horribly abusive dad. Yes.
It's like you're rooting for her and
Yeah.
not quite sure you want to root for Henry. Yeah.
That was a rough kill scene too. Just the
Yes.
the tension of that, because he basically just takes a switchblade and like holds it up to his dad's neck while he's sleeping. But there's a beat there where he's just holding it, not doing anything yet, and then you just you hear the click because he hits the button and his dad's eyes just kind of pop open and then the blood starts to flow. And
that was oh my gosh. And then just the way he kind of stood there too, like just kind of like he just like backed off and just kind of watched his dad like dying.
Yep.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's an intense scene.
Yeah.
And then they get that shot of Pennywise on the TV. Yeah.
Oof.
Good
yeah,
stuff.
because they gotta say his dad's asleep and there's some kids show on, and then like the host says something.
Kill him.
Yeah.
Kill him, Henry.
Yep. She's like doing her normal kid show stuff, and then all of a sudden she's like, now it's time to kill him. Go ahead and kill him, Henry. And then all the kids just start chanting, kill him, kill him. Yeah.
Woo. Yikes.
Other scary scenes in the first one. The lady,
90%
the lady
of the
from
movie?
the picture. I mean, well, the lady from the picture.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
the weird picture lady.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Oof.
yeah,
She-
that's frightening.
Yep.
She's scarier than Pennywise.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of do that thing, and I feel like I don't remember. Like, I think they kind of tried to do it in the original one, but in this one, they definitely like he kind of presents himself differently to everybody, and
Right.
like scares them the most.
Yes.
in a sense.
Yep.
So like that painting is something that always he was scared of. So
Right.
now it was just this creepy, creepy painting lady was kind of chasing him around. Yeah, that thing was ugh. What else did he do? There was a couple of those things.
So
I don't know if we're going in order or if we're trying to stay away from
Yeah.
towards the end, but that whole scene when they get into that house, like even before they go into the sewer part, like that when they're in the house
the first
Yeah.
time.
yeah, the first like
Yeah.
when all of them are in there together, and it's when the one kid gets his arm broke and all that stuff. That whole thing, like it just has me gripping the arm of the couch or
It's a
theater
great
seat
scene.
or wherever. Yeah, for like the whole 25 minutes or however long it feels like it takes for a long time.
Well,
that they're in there.
I love the scene right before that. I love that whole sequence because the scene right before that is the one where they're in the garage and they're trying to figure out where it comes from.
Oh, yeah.
And so they get the slide machine out and they're like projecting, the map of Derry with the map of the sewer system, and they figure out that it's at this house, but then it shows up and that's where
tries
he's
to come
giant
through the screen.
Yeah, where he does come through the screen.
Yeah.
Remember, and that's where he's giant, and they open the door and the light makes him go away. But just I love the scene when he's just like because the what's it called, the slide machine is flashing on and off.
Yeah.
So it's like dark, light, dark,
Yeah.
light, and then he's there. And then the light comes on and he's there, and they all scream and run. That's a great scene. But then I also love because immediately after that scene, Bill's like, "All right, cool, let's go. Let's go to the house and get Georgie." They're all like, "You crazy? Really?" He's like, "Yeah, let's go." And they just go. Well, he goes and they follow him.
So that house wasn't in the original miniseries.
No.
That was something that when this was on, I was like, "What's this house?" I didn't realize that was like. I think that's actually in the book, right? The houses.
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So because they had like that. What was that thing in the?
It was just like the sewer.
It was like a
opening.
sewer.
It was like a storm.
Yeah.
Like a giant storm
It was
overflow.
yeah.
They had
It's a
that-
well.
they
It's a
had,
well,
like-
but
yeah, and then they also had like that warehouse or whatever that was over the water or whatever in the original movie. Remember? Because it was when he was trying to lure the one kid there. He was like
his dad.
He was like his dad. He was like,
I live here now.
I live here now. Come on home. Because I love that scene. It's amazing.
And then he's just a skeleton.
Yeah.
Like I always felt like that's the other thing about Pennywise. I always feel like Pennywise kind of like gives it up too quick.
Yeah.
Well, like he'll be like, "Hey, I'm a person. Now I'm a skeleton. Come on."
he's impatient.
Yeah, right. Like if you had just been a person for about 5 more seconds, I bet
it's
that kid
just
would have
so-
walked up to you.
It's just so fun to be a skeleton sometimes.
If I can't entice you my way, maybe I can scare you to me. Yeah. That's not how fear works. When they go to when they're in that house and they get to those, he starts getting them all split up.
Yeah.
And then they get to those doors. That's scary, very scary, and not scary at all. And they do that in both movies.
Both movies, yeah.
That's another one where I just smile so hard every time.
Well, I love too because they just choose the one that says not scary at all.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like that's like that's accurate.
Yeah.
Like any of those are gonna be the same.
Well, I was gonna say because in the second one, I don't remember what the order in the first one was, but in the second one, they're like he's trying to trick us.
Yeah.
And so they go for very scary, that it's very scary.
Yeah.
He's like he's not tricking us. He's not tricking us.
Well, that's also got that great scene, which I think is probably the iconic scene of this movie when Pennywise unwinds himself from that fridge.
Oh yeah.
That's so
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
The one kid, Eddie falls through the floor and he's laying there and he's got his broken arm and he's separated from his friends and he's in the kitchen and the door opens and he's all wrapped up. Pennywise is all wrapped up in the fridge and like face comes out and like legs is unraveling. Oh man, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Man, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
And then I remember when's the first time he does that like weird dance of his?
Oh yeah.
That's right before after he captures Bev.
Because Pennywise.
Is it that late in the first? Okay, yeah.
Because she wakes up, she smacks her dad with the toilet bowl lid, and then turns around and he's there and grabs her, and then she wakes up in his place.
Yeah.
And he's got it's like a big stage folds down, and he's.
Yep.
His head is staying perfectly still, and his body's doing.
Oh, it's so creepy.
Oh man.
He's got that look.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Wide eye. Oh, dude.
That was good.
Thank you. So good.
Dude, yeah,
I love it.
Well, he does that crazy thing with his eyes in the movie, which is something that the actor can just do.
Oh,
Like,
really?
That's not even a special effect.
Ugh.
He can just do that with his eyes.
Yeah.
Because there's several scenes where
That
he'll
had
be
to make
standing
casting
there,
easy.
and then it's weird because it'll just drift off to the side, you'll just see it moving.
You think he just walked into the audition and they were like, "Okay, read this line," and he just stared at him for a minute and then just started doing that, and they were like, "Cancel the day."
Probably.
That's
Yeah,
it. That's
yeah,
he's the one.
yeah. We can go to lunch now.
Yeah.
Can he really unfurl are those Skarsgård teeth?
Oh yeah, those.
too?
Yep, that too. He does that too.
Hey,
It's pretty crazy stuff. But they got the guy.
yeah. Oh yeah.
They got the guy.
They found him.
What is he, Norwegian or something? I think they can all do that.
Good. I have a couple complaints.
Okay. Shoot them. Let's do it.
We don't need to go into a lot of detail on them.
Okay.
What if we want to?
Well, you won't. So I feel like they didn't have a whole lot for the black kid to do, except get racist at. And I felt like they I felt like it was a little tropey that he captured Bev, because that's not in the book.
Oh, yeah. They did the damsel in distress thing.
Just to randomly do the damsel in distress,
Yeah.
like, a little unnecessary, little tropey, just a little like, why do we need this?
Yeah, like they were already actively looking for him. Like, it's not like they needed a reason to go down there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
They were going to.
I thought that was.
Yeah.
I was wondering why they did that too, because you almost don't need that.
I guess they kind of did the fight, like, group broke up thing, and that got them
Yeah.
back together, but that was also unnecessary.
Right,
They could have
sure.
cut out 10 minutes of movie altogether and been fine.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I thought I didn't think the black kid did any particularly less than most of them did, and I kind of thought him and the fat kid both, like, them getting bullied the way they were, helped bring the whole crew together. So I thought there was some heart elements to it, at least.
Maybe.
And then that character ends up being what brings them all back together,
Yeah.
too.
Well,
So I think that flows.
I also have a problem with that, but we'll cover that when we start talking about the next movie. Not with it, with how it's done.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna say that's the same way the original one was, though, right? Mike's the one that stays behind and brings them all back.
So but in the original one, they also so Ben in the book, Ben is like the bookworm and in the library all the time. And is the one kind of courting Bev. In the original movie, they gave like the bookworm stuff to Mike,
Yeah.
so he had something else to do.
Okay.
And Ben was just trying to be the poet, fall in love with Bev or whatever.
Okay.
So they gave, and I just, it felt to me like Mike was superfluous until the second one. Like they were already, the same kind of thing. Like he kind of brought them together because they stood up to the bullies for him, but they were already fighting the bullies could have showed up. Like they didn't need to show up for him. Like he was just randomly getting racist by the bullies, and they showed up and rescued the black kid. You know what I mean? And then he didn't really.
And the fat kid. So those two kind of shared the roles there.
Yeah, and
is that I don't think you're necessarily wrong, but I wouldn't be able to pinpoint anything that like Stanley or Eddie particularly stood out for beyond what those guys did either. But
the thing is, those guys were characterized. Eddie was the hypochondriac, and so he always had something to do, something to complain about, something to point out. That's gray water. Let's not go in there. That's gross. The other, Richie was the comic relief.
Yeah.
So
Richie stood out. Bill stood out as the leader.
Right.
Beverly stood out as the word I'm looking for. Not the heart, but I mean, she was sort of like they all kind of.
I mean, I kind of feel like she pulled them together more than anybody else did.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Like she kind of like held, like she was like the glue.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But and I would say those three had their standout parts, and all of the rest of them were just kind of other kids there.
I mean, even Ben got to like New Kids on the Block. You know what I mean? And they made that joke several times. All that happened to the black kid was he got racist the whole bunch.
Got scared a lot.
Good call.
He was the orphan one.
Good call. He did kill Henry Bowers also.
Yeah.
Except he also didn't.
Well, whatever. So.
All right, should we talk about the next one?
Yes, sir.
because I don't like the next one.
Yeah, I was gonna say you weren't as big of a fan of the second one, right?
So, I mean, part of it I have to say is like my, and I do like it, but it is, I feel like it's so far below Chapter 1. My hopes were way high because I love Chapter 1 so much. And the cast is bananas. I had like I was reading the cast and I was like, this is gonna be the greatest movie ever.
Well, I really loved the casting on this.
Yeah.
I was insanely impressed with how great they casted all these characters after having the kids in the first movie, because I felt like all of these casting choices were like so perfect it was ridiculous. It's not very often you have movies where you've got like a child version and an adult version of the same character where they actually look like they could grow up and look like this person.
Yes.
And this accomplished that. I always you ever see the memes and stuff referencing that one episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where they showed Wesley Crusher as an adult and he's like this tall, handsome, like built really well guy, and that's hilarious when you see what Will Wheaton looks like now. Like it's stuff. So I always think about stuff like that.
I've never seen that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, because there's an episode of Next Generation where that happens, and it's hilarious. So, I always think about stuff like that when you think about like, but this is so well done. Like the casting's amazing.
Oh yeah,
in
for
this.
sure.
And like basically all of them you can look at and you can like see, you could tell instantly who each of them were as they were being introduced in the movie. Even if you didn't know their names, you knew which kid it was just by looking at them. I thought they did a great job with that. We already talked about the runtime. I was shocked when because I actually looked at this before I put it in. I don't usually do that, but we were already starting the movie kind of late, and Christina was trying to decide if she's going to watch it with me or not, and I was like, I think we're going to be up for a while. And I look at it and I was like, oh my god, this movie's like
or all night.
Like because it was at almost the 3-hour mark.
Yep.
And I couldn't believe it.
And it is a solid 40 minutes too long.
Oof! I definitely felt that way.
For sure.
I definitely felt that way. And part of that is, and we talked about too how like they did the first movie not knowing if they were going to get to the second one or not, which makes sense for why the second one is structured a little different, I think, because the first movie was just about the kids. But then in the second movie, they start kind of doing the thing where we're jumping back and forth between the kids and the adults, which is how the entire miniseries was. So it's like they saved all of the skipping around for the second movie. So I was a little happy that we got to see more of the kids because they were great. But I think the part of the movie that really started dragging for me is it got so formulaic at this point where it was like, follow this one character, see some crazy stuff happen to him, get a couple jump scares, move to the next character.
Well, they all had
and it did that for every single one of them.
They all had to go.
In a row.
They all had to go get their Horcruxes or whatever.
Yeah,
but
they had to go get their.
They had to go get their Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
Yes, their Infinity Stones, their Horcruxes. Yes, they had to get all of that. It was.
But like they didn't. We didn't need. What was there? 7 characters. We didn't need 10 minutes for each of those.
Every single one of them.
Absolutely did not.
Because it was literally like it was going for a while and it was doing that, and then. Because, like, Christina and I both were just kind of like, oh, now it's the next kid's turn. Yep. Oh, now it's the next kid. Because that's just the way it feels.
Yep.
And so, like, it loses its, I don't know, like, you're literally just like,
because it is, like you said, it's just the same thing over and over again.
Now they're going to go somewhere.
It's like, I wonder if he's going to see something creepy. Oh, look, he's in a dark room now. Oh, now there's a thing chasing him. Oh, now it's Kid Him again.
Oh, now there's a giant naked old woman with her boobs swinging around all over the place.
That's my favorite scene in that movie.
It's so weird. I was like, why? Well, like, look,
when she runs like naked through the back.
I started cracking up. Like I was just like, oh my, and then like, cause then she just comes out and is like, and is like chasing her around. I'm like,
he joined the circus.
But like in the original movie, the creepy old lady was actually kind of just creepy on her own. She was just a creepy old lady.
For the record, she was just kind of creepy here too, even before that.
That's what I mean.
Like, she just like stopped for a while?
Yes. She was creepy.
Stuff,
I don't know. Like that one specifically actually took it away from being creepy to being funny to me because of the weird naked lady monster they turned her into. It was weird.
And like there just wasn't. There's some really good special effects in both of these movies. There's some super creepy stuff and some legitimately like realistically looking terrifying things. And then there's just this weird CG troll monster chasing Bev through this house for no reason. It felt out of place.
I felt like that there was a lot more CG stuff in this one than the first one. Or like it stood out more to me in this one. And I guess it's because they did a lot more of these like over the top jump scare kind of things, so it was a little more like, this feels more like of a CGI fest than the first movie did.
And I think it was a different director for part 2, wasn't it?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah. So like I just think I kind of lost some of the. There was just more spirit in that first one, and this one felt more like we got to do the second part here, and so they followed enough of the formula of the first one, and I still really enjoy part 2, but like it is far too long, and it does definitely have its structure problems and its pacing problems for reasons like that. It was like with the first one, everything felt so inspired the way they were transitioning it to screen for you, and this one felt like, well, now we're doing part 2. Sometimes
it feels like it suffers a bit from the sequel syndrome. Following a movie that was
so good,
a really good. Well reviewed and made a lot of money. Yeah. So when you've got that combination and that green light's a sequel, sometimes this is the kind of thing that happens. You know. Yep.
Especially when you lose the creative force, and then you just kind of have to find somebody to get it on film for you.
And you've also got studios going, this could be the end game of horror movies. Goodness gracious, let's do it. More CGI. Can we get Batman in it?
No, Warner Brothers, get out of here. Stop.
I think this could really use some more Batman.
In fairness to your point of how much you dislike it compared to the first one, you really don't seem to give a crap about the adult version of this story.
That's true.
So it was already it already had one hand tied behind its back in the first place when it came to you, and then then it shows up to deliver, and it's like, well, how about this? Take this, and then some more of this, and then some more of this, and then some more of this, and here's a little bit more, and now here's the end, and luckily the end's only 25 minutes, right? Because let's say in the spirit of the original author, they got to the end and they're like, I guess now we'll just keep going for a while for no reason,
Yeah.
Because they totally do the Lord of the Rings thing where it just like ends 4 times.
Yes.
Oh, it totally does. Okay, so what was with the whole, and I guess we've kind of already talked about all this stuff and going to get the Horcruxes and all that. So what was up?
Did we ever say spoiler alert?
I don't think we need to.
Oh.
People know. This is a show about these movies. There's no way we're going for over an hour about these movies and not spoiling anything. That'd be amazing. So what was up with Mike tricking everybody into finding Horcruxes?
Which is what I was going to bring up.
Okay.
What I didn't like. So in the original version, and I can't comment on the book. In the original miniseries, he's like positioned as like kind of the noble protector, waiting and doing all his research, and when he brings everybody back, and he's kind of has it figured out. You know what I mean? Like in this one, he lies to get everybody there, and then he gives them. And then he lies to him about how they're going to beat Pennywise. Like he's totally not a. Yeah. He's totally not a.
Well, he thinks he's got it figured out. He just turns out to be wrong.
No, he doesn't. He does. No, because that's why he scratched out that one side of the thing
because he thought
knew it didn't work.
He thought they screwed up because they didn't believe, and so he was tricking everybody into believing because he thought that would work.
Well, still,
I don't know. It felt a little more.
No, it didn't at all. Yeah,
it felt a little more mean spirited. Like it didn't sit right with me. The whole thing. I was just kind of like, this doesn't seem. I don't know. Like it. Yeah, I guess what you're saying is right.
Yeah,
it didn't seem as heroic as Mike did originally. It definitely felt a little more. Almost a little more selfish or something too. Like I'm gonna trick all these guys into coming back here, and then we're gonna try this my way.
Right.
Especially if he doesn't know if it's going to work. Like, it's like, what are you even doing?
This is like I felt it as more just like total desperation, but
Sure.
again, like
I mean, it could be
bumbling desperation.
Yeah.
like either he wasn't in control of the situation at any point when you would feel like he should be, or you did, from the previous versions, there was that, here's what we got to do thing. And with this one, it's just like, here's what I think we can do. So let's run with it.
So I was, and maybe I missed it, and we watched the first miniseries together, and we were talking and stuff. But like, did they even, was the Indian tribes and
Not
stuff
at
like
all.
that?
No,
even
that
part of
was
all that.
yeah.
That was all.
I don't remember that
is
from the
even in
book or
books?
anything either.
So they just made that up.
I believe
for
so.
this?
Yeah.
It
was their cosmic turtle this time.
It was their cosmic turtle. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was
Which is-
really trying to wrap my head around what all that was and what he
Yeah.
was doing. Like, and he was carrying around the little thing that he was gonna there was this ghost trap or whatever.
Right.
He was gonna trap Pennywise in it, and I just felt like I was missing something.
Yeah. It wasn't conveyed very well.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, I've seen it twice, 3 times.
Yeah.
I've seen part 2 at minimum multiple times.
Okay.
And still don't fully understand what they were even trying to do.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's another thing, because they go into the whole, like when he tries to explain it to
Bill.
yeah,
Like
and
the
just
vision
and
quest
like
thing.
and doses him with ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And then so he's having this fever trip in the middle of trying to explain the lore for how they're going to defeat the demon, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it was weird.
Got to go
Like,
get the artifacts, and then we'll burn the artifacts. And
Yeah.
then
Guys, I know you don't remember me, but I've been doing cocaine for 27 years and I got a plan.
So when they're fighting Pennywise there at the end, what did you think of like his final form? Because he was a scorpion again, but this time he was a scorpion with the Pennywise clown head. But he was a big CG monster.
Let's say better than CBS. I can't say worse than Cosmic Turtle.
Yeah.
'Cause I got a feeling Cosmic Turtle would have been terrible. However, I will say in this one, I mentioned with the miniseries, sitting there the whole time going, man, I can't wait to see how they put this Cosmic Turtle on screen, and then getting to the point where I go, I don't want to see them put this Cosmic Turtle on screen. And then I got to the end and I was still underwhelmed, This one, I was like, man, it's 2019 or whatever year. I want to see what they're going to do with this Cosmic Turtle. And I thought that the entire time, and then we got to the end and it was just a scorpion monster again. I'm like, they did it to me again.
They did it again. Yeah. I was surprised because I know that, I mean, like, that's one thing about the miniseries I've always heard people kind of ridicule is the silly-looking scorpion at the end of the movie, and we laughed at it when we watched it. So I was really curious to see how they were going to handle it this time, and I was surprised that he was just a scorpion again.
Yep.
But he looked like the clown.
Yep.
And I was like, so that's how they do it different. They just still make him look like Pennywise, but he's a scorpion still.
And I feel like I think that's the way to sum up what we were talking about earlier with the, when the studio's got to get the sequel out, and the first director doesn't do it, and you bring in a guy, and this guy directed a fine movie that was too long, but the whole thing seemed way more phoned in than the first one, up to even when you get to the end, because when you get to the end, you've got source material from the book, which is admittedly way weirder than it needs to be, and so I don't mind them not doing that, but then you've got the source material from the TV show that has been ridiculed the entire time for being too much of a cop-out. I feel like trying something new is the way to go there. You know, if you're something new is trying to do a version of the book, that's fine. If you're something new is just fixing the weird crab monster, that's fine. But just doing it again with better special effects doesn't feel like it should be the answer unless you're just kind of trying to get the movie finished.
Right.
Yeah. So the ghost trap didn't work.
No.
Right.
Looked like it did.
Looked like it did.
They did
Didn't work.
the Ark of the Covenant thing.
Yeah.
Nobody look at it.
Yeah, I looked at the trapper, eh?
So here's my big problem.
Okay.
Are you ready for my big problem with number 2? We've got the losers who stood up to the demon from time and stood up to their bullies and found strength in themselves, right?
Yeah.
And overcame their trauma and their bullying and defeated the clown, the representation of all their trauma and angst and pain by not being afraid of it. And then it comes back, and how do they beat it? By bullying it to death.
I know.
It's awful.
Yeah, it was so weird. And, like, I guess I just didn't get that either.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, all you had to do to beat Pennywise was say mean things to him?
Right.
Like, they were literally just like, I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of you. And he was like, no, please stop.
Well, and then it went a step before that because it wasn't just I'm not scared of you. It's you're stupid.
Yeah.
You're a bad clown.
Yeah.
You look so silly. You know, like all this stuff where they just bullied this thing until it was nothing, then murdered it. Like
like so he shrunk into this weird little.
Like, I think you
shrivel.
guys missed the point of all of everything.
And when they got
bullies by bullying.
So like they copped out on the ghost trap thing, or that fails miserably, but is explained weird and just doesn't play that well. But then they have what was all a better idea than what they because they get to that part where they're all standing around and they're like. They had that realization where it's like, any living thing can only inhabit like the strength of its size, or however they word it. It's like we got to get it to be small. Well, there's this cave thing over here. If it's going to follow us, it's going to have to get small, and then we can kill it that way. I'm like, all right, that's inventive at least. That's something. I mean, it's already crab monster. Right. So it's nothing like new, but at least like that's a good way to horn in to outsmart it or whatever, and then that just doesn't work, and then they bully it instead. I'm like, you had a better ending,
right? And
you added 5 more minutes to make your ending worse. That
missed the entire point of the whole
to undo the last 5 hours of movie watching.
There it is. So I totally get it. I totally get why you feel the way you do about it. So I watched both of these movies with Christina, and we've talked about before that she does not do well with horror movies. Boy, these she had a real hard go with these.
Yeah, that was an interesting decision on both your parts.
I kind of, I gave her out, and she decided to sit with me and watch them. She got through the first one okay. She definitely had clown dreams that night, she told me. But for the second one, oh man, she kept her head buried the whole time because of all of those elongated scenes with all the jump scares. That was so much more intense to her. So on one hand, I complain about all that, but on the other hand, they definitely did, I think, turn up the intensity with a lot of the kills and the jump scares. Like the scene in the where Bill chased Pennywise into the House of Mirrors to try to save that kid.
Ooh, that's a good scene.
That's a good scene.
That's a good scene.
That was probably one of the best Pennywise scenes, definitely in that movie. I think
for sure,
because it felt more like the first movie. I mean, he saw himself, or he saw Georgie in that kid. He didn't want the same thing to happen to that kid. He did everything he could to try to stop it from happening, which ended up just being a trap by Pennywise to lure him there so he could watch that kid get eaten. Woo, that was intense.
That was a good scene too. And one shining star of It Chapter 2, I'm pretty sure I could watch 3 hours of James McAvoy reading a phone book. He's phenomenal. And his scenes were pretty good. Because the scene where he meets that kid for the first time, he's on the bike. The scene where he meets Stephen King. And he's just a total jerk to him in the pawn shop. Like, how much for that old bike? Didn't you write this book? $300.
you can afford it.
That's a good scene. And then he meets that kid. And
they first meet that kid in the Chinese restaurant. Remember?
Oh, that's right.
Because Richie unloads on him.
That's right.
Just a fan of your work.
Right.
You want a picture?
Then he meets that kid. Well, then he meets the kid afterward, and he's like, hey, if you see a clown in the storm drain, stay away from it. And you're like, good, you just come off as a complete weirdo. And then that kid's like, if you say so. I hear the voices in the drain, and you're like, oh. Oh, man.
Right. You're in the bathtub or whatever. It's like, oh, no. Yikes. Hey, what about did you like the Chinese restaurant scene better in this movie?
I did.
It goes bananas.
But I liked it fine in the first one too, but I like that a lot better in this one.
It gets fine in the first one. When it gets to them opening the fortune cookies and stuff, it's fine. But there's that whole 5 minutes of them just like, oh, this is so, oh, can you believe it? And they kind of do that in this one too. I thought it was interesting how like those Chinese restaurants looked exactly the same. Like you could convince me they were at the same actual Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, totally.
Might have been the same set. Who
Might
knows?
have been.
Yeah,
might have been.
Hey, remember when Bill Hader got chased by the giant Paul Bunyan statue?
Yes.
That was fun.
Eddie had all my favorite adult parts when he was going through his little, finding his item or whatever it was, and wow, I was thinking about it on the way here, so I wouldn't blank on it. And now I'm blanking on it. But what was that song that starts playing when he's got that leper and he's holding him and he starts choking him out, and everything turns, and there's that moment of silence. And then that song just starts playing, and that thing just starts projectile vomiting all over him. That was
insane.
Yeah, and I laughed so hard at that.
Didn't that end up being the catalyst for them figuring out that?
Yeah, because he knew.
Him because he realized that when he was choking him, that it was getting weak or whatever.
Yeah,
he was actually hurting it.
Yeah.
God,
I know.
That scene
that's gonna bug me until
great. No,
and when what's the guy's name? The bully guy's name?
Bowers.
Yeah, when Bowers shows back up and just jams that knife into his mouth.
Oh man!
And he's just stumbling around, and he just walks over into the shower with that knife in his mouth and kind of pulls the curtain and everything like that, and then ends up stabbing Bowers and just kind of walking out of the shower, just kind of slinking away with that big hole in his mouth.
I like how his zombie friend just drove him around in this movie too, right?
Well, so yes, but they did that in the first one too. Remember, he was the one. He showed up still young.
Yeah,
I mean, it was obviously Pennywise, not
right.
But yeah. But that's how they got him, because they got him out of the insane asylum in that one too. Only in that one he talked. In this one he was a crazy zombie, and it was awesome. There were definitely things in chapter 2 that I liked.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It works with one as a whole. It's just clearly the inferior part.
I still prefer it to the original miniseries.
Yeah. And you don't. The great thing about the way they film these too is that you don't need to enjoy one. You can just watch one as its own thing,
totally,
and be fine. So it's
I've done. Often.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's fine that it's there. It doesn't take away from one. It could have been better. It could have just been shorter. It could have been the exact same quality and 40 minutes shorter, and I would like it 10 times more.
Yeah.
But also, having seen one, knowing all of the talent they had going into 2, there's always going to be that what it could have been feeling.
Sure. Sure. Well, overall, I enjoyed the franchise.
Yeah.
I think I'm really glad I got to see them all. I definitely think at least the first movie will be added to a regular rotation when I want to watch something for Halloween and stuff. Because I did really like it.
Or if you just need to get Christina out of the room.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think she's going to want to watch it again. But I really did like it. And, man, I do love I love Bill Skarsgård's portrayal of Pennywise quite a bit. I think he's a super we already talk about how iconic Tim Curry is in the role, but I honestly think Skarsgård's interpretation of the character is gonna be one of those ones that's right there in pop culture for some time to come.
It's for sure phenomenal. And again, perfect for what it's in. It fit this movie to a T.
Yeah, absolutely.
These movies, whatever.
In the past on this show, we've talked about, especially the slasher movies. We kind of talked about our favorite kills and stuff like that, and we don't really have that with these because these movies are I don't really root for these poor kids to get eaten by Pennywise, right? But I will say that if there was anybody that I was wanting to see die terribly, it was those punks from the beginning of the second movie. Who beat up those dudes on the bridge.
Yeah.
I wanted those guys to get Pennywised so bad.
And they did not.
No. And what a terrible way for that movie. The start of that movie just
we haven't really talked about the town at all. And that's kind of that's a big part of these movies, and they never really make it a focal point. You sort of have to, I mean, they tell you the story, but you sort of have to kind of feel that part of it. But the whole thing is like, Pennywise's existence, he has been there for centuries, and he has just made this entire town evil, essentially.
Yes.
So weird, demonic things happen like that, and I believe that part continues even through the periods where he's gone, where it's just a bad place because of this cloud, basically, that lives, well, I guess it lives under it, but, and so it's kind of that one of those, it was hard to watch, but a good introduction to what you're walking into. Similar to the Georgie scene kind of in the first one.
Like that, I mean, it definitely set the tone for that movie, but it definitely was just like, ugh, that's what an awful way to start a movie.
Yeah.
like I feel terrible right now.
Yep.
But I mean, that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's supposed to make you feel that way. Yeah, we didn't really talk about that a ton, but like, because there's that scene.
Because that old lady watches Georgie get eaten.
Yep, she does in the first movie. You're totally right.
Yeah.
Did she watch it happen? Or
she
was kind of like around.
She saw him and then played with her cat and then saw the puddle of blood and then went back inside.
And then just went back inside.
Yeah. She didn't watch him get eaten. But
because there's like a spell basically over especially like the adults in the town, right? And because there's even that scene in the first one where the kids are. Like, they lift up the one missing poster because there's just another kid's missing poster underneath it. And they talk about how they hung this one up so fast and already forgot about the girl from last week.
Yeah.
Because it's just the way this town is.
Yeah.
It's crazy stuff. Yeah. So, like, you're right. It's there, but they don't put a lot of focus on it. It's just like you have to kind of pick up on it.
Yeah. But it works better that way. Like,
I agree. I agree.
When they bring that to the surface and make a whole movie about it, it loses some of the power of thinking about it.
Well, that's the whole reason why they all forgot about it when they left the town, too, right? Because like when they all left and grew up elsewhere, they just forgot that this whole Pennywise thing even happened. They had to be brought back to the town for it all to come back to them.
Yeah, that's an interesting difference, too. In the original miniseries at the end, they all start to forget again. In the new movies, they all remember everything afterwards.
Yeah, I guess because he's dead now, so the spell's broken. I think is what we're supposed to get.
That's what. They kind of said that.
Yeah, but when they killed him at the end of the original miniseries, like there's that whole recap where Bill and Mike are talking about. We started to forget again right away. Sometimes we can't even remember each other's name.
Oh,
at the end after they've killed them as adults.
Yeah,
like they start to forget again. Yeah,
I wonder why. Why would that happen that way?
Maybe they were setting up for a sequel.
Maybe they were.
I would love
30 years later.
Let's say I would love to just see like one of those
De Niro and Joe Pesci.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say like a Space Cowboys type thing or whatever, where they're just like, who's in Hollywood in '70 that can fight this clown?
De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Helen Mirren.
Yeah,
I'm in.
That'd be awesome. And then they could
still just make it a red. Just do Bruce Willis and Helen Mirren and
there we go. Malkovich.
Yeah. Who was the guy from Shawshank.
Morgan Freeman.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like, where does Tim Robbins come into this?
He's got to be old enough to be one of them too.
Yeah, probably.
John, did you have somebody you wanted to see die the most?
No, not particularly. I mean, any of the bullies or any of the creepy dads.
Bullies and creepy dads. Yeah, that's like
I guess we never actually
statement for
we never actually saw Bev's dad die. That's a bummer. But most of the other people I wanted to see get their comeuppance got it. So
I
was bummed out when Eddie died.
Yeah. I'm happy every time Henry Bowers dies. Yeah. Even when he doesn't, when they throw him down, when Mike throws him down the well in chapter 1, I want to high five the TV screen. What do they do to him in chapter 2?
Does he die when Eddie stabs him?
Doesn't die when Eddie stabs him. No, he drives away and comes back again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because he attacks. Does he attack Mike?
Yes.
He does
Mike kill him?
Yeah, Mike kills him.
Yeah,
Did Mike kill him again?
Yeah, Mike kills him again. Yeah, that totally happened.
Good. Yeah. But I'm happy every time Eddie Bowers dies. Do you have a favorite character?
Ooh.
Of the franchise.
Well, I mean, like, I want to say that Richie's probably my favorite, but but definitely in the newer movies more so than the older movies, because I wouldn't necessarily say that Seth Green was the best character in the, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it was a very different portrayal, I feel like, of the character, but I definitely liked...
Oh, it was primetime network television versus
yes,
R-rated.
Yes. I definitely enjoyed his character a lot more in the movies, so it's tough to say, like across the whole board. I like Pennywise. I can say Pennywise.
That's the thing. Like, it's a good enough ensemble. Like, they all have their moments that I love so much. Yeah. And it makes it hard for any one of them to stand out as I mean, again, other than Pennywise, who kind of runs the whole series together. Yeah. But it's always weird to pick a favorite character that you're actively rooting against.
Yeah.
But he is the standout as far as that goes. Sure. But the rest of it is like nobody stands out because everyone does so well. And I think that's as kids and adults. Yeah. Honestly, there's nobody in those movies that I thought was wasted, you know?
Yeah, totally.
I still think Bev... In chapter 1, I think Bev stands above. Like, as a character, like the actress was phenomenal, and they just gave her. I felt like they gave her a lot of interesting stuff to do that I guess I wasn't expecting. Mm-hmm. You know, like she kind of teases Ben about new kids, but she's also kind of sweet to him about it, and you know, she's the one that jumps off the cliff, and they're all like, we just got beat by a girl. Do we have to do that now? You know? And,
yeah.
You know? So, I think that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Literally.
Yeah.
But I'm bummed.
Yeah, I'm glad we watched them. That was a really fun way.
Good.
Really fun way to kick this season off.
Yeah.
Really fun way.
So, should we run down what's coming this season, or should week to week be a surprise?
Well,
I think we're still trying to put some stuff in place, so that's up to you.
Yeah, well, next week is going to be the original slasher film.
Ooh.
Psycho.
Yeah. I've never seen
how many
that either,
Psychos?
So
we're gonna do 4. We're gonna do the original 4.
Okay.
And then I'll put it to you guys right now. Do we want to do the Vince Vaughn reboot?
I kind of enjoy never having seen that. and sort of want to keep that streak alive. So if you're asking for my vote, I will say no for that purpose. But if we're going to watch it, I'm not going to stop us.
Well, I think Jared and I were talking about this last week, and I think a lot of the movies we have picked out this time have a reboot.
Yeah.
So
and like, because obviously we started with it, and we watched its reboot. So he thought it might be kind of cool to have that as an opinion for every one of these episodes. If there's a reboot, we'll watch it to compare.
This is just a shot for shot remake, but everything's worse. Is my understanding. Can we just watch the first one a second time and go, what if this was bad?
What if it was bad?
What if that's Vince Vaughn?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But Psycho for sure is going to be discussed, so I'm excited about that.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's Halloween season. Mm-hmm. It's scary movie season. I'm so excited. If you're excited, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Rate us. You can find us on, if you're watching us on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform, like the Apple podcasting app or Google Play.
Look, everything's been changing with this stuff. Google Play is going away, and it's being incorporated into YouTube Music. So I think the podcast...
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like I even just got like the notice this week where it had me like import my Google Play stuff over to YouTube Music.
Oh.
So
I don't need that stuff.
I got to figure that out. I assume the podcasts are just going to automatically flow right into whatever Google's doing, because that's all Google. They own all that stuff. So they're probably just decided to consolidate into one app for everything.
Yeah, if you want Google to play our podcast for you, I think it will be easy to find.
I'm certain it's not going to be hard to find.
I think you could stand in 80% of the country and just go, okay, Google, play the Freek Easy, and something will play it for you.
Look. Yeah. My phone started to look for it. Look! Hold on! What's it going to play? What's it playing? I don't know what it's playing, but
I'm terrified right now.
Google found something, and I'm going to have to go turn that off right now. Hey, Google, stop.
Oh, that went in a different direction than I expected. So,
Awesome.
why have they not remade Maximum Overdrive with just a bunch of Alexas murdering everyone?
That's got to be a thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm shocked that hasn't happened yet. Especially, I mean, like they just tried to redo the Chucky's.
I was gonna say, did you see the really bad Chucky remake?
I haven't watched it yet. You
Yeah.
told me it was terrible.
I don't
We
know.
talked about it last year.
Cut
because
this
we watched-
part out of the podcast so the internet doesn't steal our idea. Let's get to writing this.
Anyway, this podcast should be anywhere you find your podcasts, and it's on YouTube, so you'll find it.
Tell your friends we're back.
That's right.
I thought I had such a good segue, but everything changes, so I don't know anything anymore.
We'll get it figured out for next time.
So I guess that's been the Freek Easy.
Okay,
Is that-
okay, Google, end the
Any
podcast.
last-
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of the Geek Easy Podcast.